Hi guys, today we're going to talk about entities and attributes in database management systems. The contents of today's video: the introduction, the understanding, the entity and the type of entity sets, the ER diagrams, and the attributes. The introduction: DBMS, database management systems, are large integrated collections of data. They play an important role in modern data management, helping agencies keep, retrieve, and manage data effectively. At the core of any DBMS is the concept of entities, which is a basic concept that refers to real-world devices or ideas inside a database. This article will explore the sector of entities within a DBMS, providing an in-depth understanding of its fundamental concept and its significance in database format. Understanding: entity and attributes are crucial aspects of RDBMS ER model. If you have a collection of laptops that all belong to the same firm, are the same color, and have the exact specifications, we cannot distinguish them apart just on their looks. And this is the reason why we are going to study entity and attributes. Because we must retrieve data from the database, and each of them must have a distinct value that may be used to distinguish between two sets of data. As a result, we can refer to an item as an entity when it becomes uniquely identifiable from the rest of the records in the database. And let's take a closer look at what an entity is, as well of its types. Entity. An entity is a thing of an object in the real world. An entity contains attributes which describe that entity, so anything about which we must store information is called an entity. Entities are recorded in the database and must be distinguishable, easily recognized from the group. As you can see in the given picture, the, with the employee as the entity name and with the ID being the primary key attribute and the non-primary key attribute being the details of the employee such as his name, salary and the department. An entity set is a collection of similar types of entities that share the same attributes. For example, all students of a school are an entity set of student entities. Here are some of the key terminologies used in entities. Attributes, which are the houses or trades of an entity. Entity type, a category or class of entities that share the same attributes. Entity instance, a particular instance or character entity with an entity type. And the primary key being the unique identifier used for inside an identity key. The types of entity sets. Strong entity set. They exist independently and each instance of a strong entity set has a unique primary key. Whereas in a weak entity set, it does not have a single primary key that unique identifies it. Instead, it has a partial key. Kinds of entities. Tangible entity, a physical object or physical thing that can be physically touched, seen, or measured. Has a physical existence or can be seen directly. Example of physical tangible entities are physical goods or physical products. For example, inventory items in an inventory database or for people. Example such as customers or employees. Intangible entity are abstract and conceptual objects that are not physically present but have meaning in the database. They are defined by attributes or properties that are not directly visible. Examples are such as product categories or sales, or even consideration of events or occurrences in appointments or transactions. Now let's look at an example. The following picture shows us the roll number. That shows us a student database consisting of roll number, student name, age, and mobile number. So using the three entities from the table, we may create a new entity set. An entity can consist of Angel, Priya, and Annalisa. A similarly, entity from the entity type student can be used to create an obligation of the entity set. Also, we can see that if we all the records to entities, the entity type student is created. As a result, the entity type can be considered the superset of the entity set. And some other examples, such as product entity, which is fundamental for businesses involved in selling physical or digital items. Each product instance has attributes like product ID, name, price, description, and stock quantity. Invoice entity. Invoice is a crucial financial document generated in the context of sales. The invoice entity encompasses attributes such as invoice number, date, customer name, billing address, and total amount. Order entity. The order entity is instrumental in the sales process, representing customer purchase request. It involves attributes such as order ID, date, customer ID, and total amount. Now let us look at the symbols used in ER diagrams. The rectangle is used to represent the entity. Ellipse is used to represent the attribute. Diamonds are used to represent the relationship. The lines is used to link the attributes to the entity sets or entity sets to relationship sets. Double ellipses represents the multi-valued attributes. Primary key represents key attributes or single valued attributes. Now let us look at an ER diagram of a company as given, where as employee and the department, it's the project, and the dependent, which are all connected using the lines from a relationship set to entity set or a attribute set to an entity set. Now this is the ER diagram for a banking or for a bank as given, where we have the customer, the employee, the branch, and the payment and the account as main sets, which are all linked with the lines from relationship set or entity sets. Attributes. It is a characteristic. In a database management system, an attribute refers to a database component such as table. It may also refer to a database field. Attributes describe the instance in the column of a database. A quality or a characteristic of an entity is referred to as an attribute. An entity can have as many properties as it wants. One of the attributes considered as a primary key. Attributes are expressed in an elliptic shape in an entity relationship model. Relationships in relation database are the defining qualities or properties that define all objects belonging to a specific control are and applied to all cells in a column. For example, in a gender student table, you can consider attributes such as roll number, mobile number, and age, where we have roll number as a key or a primary attribute. Types of attributes. There are numerous types of attributes, including the following: simple attribute and composite attribute, single valued attribute and multi-valued attribute, stored attribute and derived attribute, with the key attribute and non-key attribute. Simple attribute. Simple attributes has an atomic value that cannot be subdivided further. An oval is used to represent it. The entity type is directly linked to a basic attribute. The oval and the rectangle are immediately connected in the ER diagram. A simple attribute can be given in the instance of a roll number of a student as given, whereas in a composite attribute, which can be further divided into other attributes. We show this on an ER diagram by linking ovals, so the composite attribute is represented by oval and further divides the oval are also represented by ovals. We don't have any composite attribute columns where we convert this ER diagram to relation table. Only the attribute that came after we further separated the composite attribute as its own column. Just like the address of house can be divided into house number, street number, city or state, country and pin code, and the name of a student can be further divided into his first name, middle name and last name. Single valued attribute. There is only one value for this characteristic. A simple oval is represented. It can also be a basic attribute. The section of a student, for example, is a simple property because it cannot be further divided, and also because a student cannot study in more sections and it is a single value feature. For example, the age of a student, as it cannot be further divided. Whereas in multiple valued attribute, it is a double oval is usually used to represent it. Can be used by some composite keys. The address property of a student, for example, can be divided into its locality, town, and pin. As such, we refer this to a composite attribute. Furthermore, a student address can have multiple values, and whereas in the given example, we can see as an email address, whereas the email address a student can have more than one. Stored attribute. The user should give the value for this attribute. The value of this attribute is saved and can be used only to find the value of other attributes, such as given of a date of birth of a student, which can be used just by searching the date of birth. Details of a student can be brought up. Whereas in derived attribute, it is derived from the values of other characteristics. We know the value of another attribute and are dividing the value of this attribute or from the we store attributes. This is due to the fact that the value for such an attribute is constantly changing. A dashed oval is used to depict it, just like the value of the age attribute is derived and extracted from the DOB. As age can be differentiated every year. Key attribute, uniquely identified by a key attribute, the entity's types. A relation table represents the table's primary key. symbolized by an oval, and the text within the highlighted. Even and all of entities are the called the same, the key attribute will always be unique. For instance, of a roll number of a student as a key attribute, because a roll number cannot be same for some students, whereas the non-key attribute are all the other attributes that are key attributes. The data attribute can have same value for two or more. For example, students enrolled in the same class would have the same value for the class attribute, whereas as they're in the same section. And that brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Please do like and subscribe.